Hello friends, in today's video we are going to work on stenciling in our Dumbo junk journal. I want to show you what I completed today, and then we'll go ahead and do a craft along, and you can grab your stuff and stencil along with me. Not only did we do some stenciling, but we also used my gilding paste, so I'm going to show you how I did that. This is one of the pages that I used the gilding paste on, and I really like how it looks. I'll show you how I achieved this look with the stenciling, and I did the same on the back. And the reason I did that is because I was using some pen to do some highlights, and it seeped through the page, so I went ahead and I flipped my stencil over and did this, and I think it turned out great. But it was one of those things where, you know, in crafting, when we make a little bit of a mistake but then, you know, we fix it and then it turns out being a wonderful surprise. Here's a plain journaling page, and I used just a simple star stencil on it with the gilding paste, and it's simple, but it does add a little bit of character to the page. This one, you can see they are stars, and I used my yellow ink. It's a monochromatic look, and I really, really like it. Same over here, but I used flower stencil. All right, friends, grab your crafty goodies and let's get started. As mentioned, I used my gold gilding paste, and then I grabbed some of the different stamps that I had. You know, I chose ones that I felt like the colors would go well in this journal. So I've got purple, green, pink, and then I have my little tiny like multi-pack, and it's got all sorts of different colors. I went ahead and grabbed just 2 stencils that I wanted to work with. I chose these 2 because I felt like those shapes would go good with this theme. So the first one we're going to work on is this one. It's a flower, and I'm going to go ahead and use the gilding paste. I went over to my sink and I primed my brush. So I had done a little research on how to use it, and it said to take your brush or your sponge, get it wet with water and soap, and then rinse it, and it said that that would prime it. So I did that. It seems to work. Now, I am new at using gilding paste, so there's still a little bit of a learning curve for me, and there was a few times when my brush was a little bit too wet, and I should say my sponge because that's what I'm working with. There's a few times when it was a little too wet, so I would just dab it on a paper towel, and then that seemed to work out just fine. So I took that same brush that I had my gilding paste on, and I dipped it in my peach colored ink pad, and then I made the butterfly. And really the butterfly looks a little bit more gold still than it does the peach color, but I still wanted to try it, and it didn't transfer much of the gold onto that pad, so, and I wasn't really worried about it. I was more interested in experimenting to see how much transfer there would be. I wasn't too worried about damaging the color of the coral. I'm calling it peach, but it's more of a coral color. This butterfly came out a little bit different than the first one. There is gold, but there's also some of the coral color. So I don't know, it kind of turned out pretty neat. But I will say that I feel like my my brush was a little bit too wet, and so it made the paper wrinkle just a little bit, but really not enough to worry about. It does end up drying, and there's no problem. All right, that is the only one that we're going to do in the first signature, so we're going to move on over to the second signature and decide what we want to do in here. I decided I wanted to do a butterfly shape up in the corner here, and I ended up dipping my sponge brush into the water, and it was way too wet, so I dabbed it on the paper towel, and then I'm just trying to work some more of the ink in here. But since it's moist, I'm going to dip it into the gilding paste, and then I'll put that in there, and honestly, once this dries, you can't tell that, you know, it was a little bit too wet in the first place. I don't stencil that often. It's something that I would like to do more frequently. It's just one of those things where it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. So I'm really enjoying doing some stenciling, and I figured, you know, these pages aren't sewn into the journal, so if I didn't like something, I could end up just switching the piece of paper out. It honestly wouldn't be any big deal. In the end, I do end up liking all the stenciling that I do here today, but it was just nice having the freedom of not having to worry about it. I like the way this came out, but I really would like it to pop a little bit more. So I'm going to grab some of my very, very fine point markers and just go over some parts of it. When I flipped the paper over just to look at the other side, I was very surprised to see that my marker had bled through the page. These markers usually don't do that. So I wonder if it had something to do with the dyeing process that I did with the paper, and perhaps having wet it and dyed it, you know, when I turned it blue, maybe it made it thinner or something. I'm not really sure, but I was a bit surprised to see the marker had bled through, and you really couldn't tell here that that did in fact happen. But I decided that I would go ahead and add marker to this side too, since some had already bled through. As you can see, I cleaned off my stencil and I flipped it over so that the image would match. And now I'm just going to go ahead and use some inking to sort of fill it in. I really like how pretty this turned out, so I think I'm going to go ahead and add some stamping to the other side, which is the original side that I started on anyway. But I really like the richness of the peach stamp that I used, so I'm going to go ahead and add that on this side, along with some green. I hope everybody's doing great. It's been a few weeks since we got back from our most recent trip to Orlando, and I feel like I'm still trying to sort of catch up with myself, but things are going well, and we're getting ready to have a celebration over here at my house. So I've been working really hard trying to do some deep cleaning in my house, and I'm actually completely reorganizing my dining room. Yesterday I spent the day, actually it was the day before yesterday, I spent the day moving all of the furniture around into different places, moving a lot of the pictures around, just giving it a total overhaul. And once I got the furniture placed and the pictures placed where I wanted, I redid the inside of my china hutch, and I actually added some art to the inside and then put the dishes and glass and stuff that was in there, I put that back in there, switched it around a little bit, just try to freshen everything up. And so far I'm really liking the results. So then I had a bunch of stuff in boxes in there, just sort of that I was storing, and I'm going through those and trying to get it out of the boxes and either, whatever it is, put it away, put it in a place that I will use it, or if it's definitely something that is not useful, possibly donating it. So that's what I've been spending the last couple of days on, and it sort of wore me out. And I had a tired, what I call a tired day today, and I really did. I had a tired day today. So I thought it would be nice to just sit down and relax and edit some videos. Some of you know that, well, most of you know that I have my craft room, and that's where I create the things that I create. And then in my dining room, not only is it my dining room, but it is also my Etsy shop. So everything that I sell in my shop goes in my dining room. So I am reorganizing that stuff as well, and that's going to take me a hot minute to do that, but trying to get that accomplished. And then I have a pile of stuff that needs to be listed. It's not listed in my Etsy shop yet, but it's in the, sort of to-do pile. So I'm, trying to get that done. And then, as you guys, many of you are crafters, obviously probably all of you are crafters, you know that if you're a junk journaler, we collect books that we might want to alter or turn into journals or cut the ephemera out of, so on and so forth. And so I had some of my books in my craft room, but not many of them. And then I had a pile of them in the dining room, and then I actually had 2 piles of them in my living room. And I'm really trying to get my house in order this year. That is something that I have worked on since the beginning of 2022, is getting my house in order. So I was able to get all of my books into the dining room. I actually do not have space for them currently in my craft room. Once I use some of my stash, I should be able to move some in there, but right now I don't have space for them. So I have them, at least all of them are now in my dining room, and they are actually all on top of one table, so I can see all of them. I can see the titles of all of them, and now when I need inspiration of a sort of journal to do, I can go in and look at them, or if I know what kind of journal I want to do, I can go check my book stash to see if any of them would be useful. I feel like I haven't been quite as present on YouTube as usual, but that's the situation that we get into sometimes is, you know, we have stuff that we have to get done, and sometimes I just need to think, so I can't always just have videos playing when I'm trying to focus and concentrate and get my space cleaned up and organized, especially when I'm moving things around. You know, it's one thing to clean up your space. I can have all sorts of things going on when I'm simply cleaning, but this is a major overhaul and I just need sort of peace and quiet so that I can go ahead and make decisions and, you know, take a step back, take a look. Do I like it? Am I happy with where it is? Do I need to move it? You know, this, that, and the other. So I apologize for not being as present as usual on YouTube, but I also have to prioritize my house and I need to get it in order because I want to walk into my home and I want to feel happy and I want to feel somewhat organized. And it's been a long time since I felt like that. So I need to put the work in and get it done. And I know that you guys know what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm starting to get to know the gilding paste. You know, when you're working with something new and you're just sort of figuring out how it behaves, and that's what I'm doing here, and I feel like I'm finally getting the hang of it, and it's lovely to use and it has such a beautiful impact, and so I look forward to playing with it some more. The gilding paste is as easy to use in the stencils as it is to use ink. Just remember that if you get your sponge wet, make sure you dab it on a paper towel first. Make sure it's not too wet before you hit that stencil with it. I appreciate you coming along and working with me on this Dumbo journal. This has been a real joy to work on and make. I will have another craft with me video coming up with the Dumbo journal. We'll be putting in some pockets and some little paper pads and things like that. And then I will do a video showing you how I make the cover of the journal. And then finally, we will go ahead and do a flip through of the Dumbo journal. I appreciate you spending time with me. Thanks for watching. See you soon.